Hi there, Hockey World. How you guys doing out there today? We are happy to be with you as always on this lovely day. Russ, what's going down with you?
So something interesting happened yesterday in the Met game. One of their players hit for the cycle, Eduardo Escobar, and the last time I did it was 2012. And what's funny about it is, you would think the no hitter is like the hardest thing to do in baseball, but actually hitting the cycle is harder. Like the odds are harder to do it, and usually it's because getting the triple is the one that's the hardest. So, anytime it happens, it's always a big deal. The guy's a good player, but it's a fun thing. It's one of those things. I don't know if there's anything like it in any other sport because, in hockey, there's a hat trick, great.
The Gordie Howe hat trick in hockey is kind of the closest thing, I think. But
natural hat trick?
No, the Gordie Howe hat trick kind of, which is
that's a contrived hat
It's a contrived thing, but I would say that's like, I think the closest thing would probably be what Mario Lemieux did that one game, right? Which is score a goal in every possible way.
That could be it.
That's like the thing. It's like he scored a shorthanded goal, a power play goal, a regular strength goal, and an empty net goal, and a goal and a penalty shot, I think, in that game, right? Something like that.
Yeah. No. Was it? No, I don't think it was a penalty shot in there.
No, not a penalty shot.
I think it was shorthanded power play, right, and regular strength.
And even strength, yeah.
Right.
And
empty net.
An empty net.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's your hockey cycle, basically.
And Corinne's already annoyed because we're talking baseball. But plenty of people in Quebec play baseball. They do. Quebec has a big baseball history, actually.
It does, but
especially leaving.
Quinn, you don't remember the Expos, probably, right?
Well, yeah, I do remember them, and I remember going to a baseball game and thinking, wow, this is boring. There was actually more action in the stands. And I went to Cleveland once, and I saw an Indians game, and I swear to God, there was more action in the stand. There was this lady behind me eating some peanuts, and that was the highlight of the game. The mountain of peanut scale there was on the floor at the end. Seriously.
Yeah,
I'm just not a very small person. Sorry.
It's a different speed. I'm not a baseball fan either. I played baseball a lot. I like playing it, but I'm not a huge.
It's fun to play. I'll give you that.
It is fun to play.
Baseball, the game has the pace that it does, that it allows you to eat in between innings, which is the main function of baseball. You can get a hot dog.
No, that's the main function of Netflix.
Right.
Not sports.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
eat in between pitches, actually. That's how slow it moves sometimes. But yeah, it's okay. No, it's good.
I bring a nice big bag of sunflower seeds, and I'm putting them in my instead of pretending it's tobacco. And
hey, look, if you haven't seen a friend in like 10 years, go to a baseball game. You got all game to talk about it.
That's true.
Yeah, but you can save money and not go to the game. Just get on the bloody phone and sort it.
It's something to do on it. It's a summer. It's a summer thing. It definitely is like a thing for me. It's like it's a thing to have on TV.
If it were played in the winter, it would be less popular. The fact that it's in the summer is a big deal.
Like our beach place, we always have like the baseball games on TV. People are coming, watching it, but it's just on TV as you're walking. When you have to run back to the house for a second, it's on.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. That's what baseball is. It's American. It's definitely American for sure. Anyway, here we go. The day is the 7th of June, I say.
Maybe.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, June 7th, 2022.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Kevin Eyes.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday, filling the comings and goings in the hockey world. Now we are down to three teams only after last night. And I thought we were going to get another extra. I thought that game I really thought Edmonton was going to win that one. I did. I really felt like when it was 3-1 and 4-2, I felt like they had a shot. But man, Colorado really.
I went to bed at 4-2 thinking, that's sorted.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
So who here was awake when Don Koharski, they floated to him to see if it was a high stick, and he said
I did.
He said merd. That's what he said.
He threw the S word out there.
The holy S word, which was great.
Really funny. Yeah.
Sucks. Yeah.
It was really it was funny. And I mean, let's talk about the goal, I guess, because I think the right call was made, but
Yeah, but let's take a second here just to acknowledge the fact that it's the second year in a row that actually Lekanen sends a team to the Stanley Cup final with an OT goal.
That is
True.
really fascinating.
Love that. And the second that, the Abs were rebuilding, I was like, yeah, Lekanen's getting a move. And what a good move by Sakic.
Yeah.
Well, I made a fatal error last night, because after, I think it was Hyman scored the goal to make it 4-2, I turned the game off thinking that Edmonton was going to win, and then turned it back and it was 5-4, and rewound the DVR to watch how they scored the 3 goals. And I have to say, again, I have a sore shoulder, but it's not going to prevent me from patting myself on the back, because, and I don't care how much Kevin says that this was not a goaltending series. The reason the Edmonton Oilers are out of the playoffs right now is because Mike Smith is a sieve. And he cost them that game, and he cost them that series, because I think they had a legitimate chance maybe to extend it. I didn't predict them to win the series. I thought it was going to be Colorado in 6.
I felt like the hockey gods served that up for Mike Smith, because the hockey gods were just annoyed with the way he played in net this entire series, that they're like, you know what? We're going to do this as the last goal, and this way we get you out of here, because nobody wants to watch Mike Smith.
It's on the Oilers, front office staff. They've had so many years to get a bloody goaltender, and they still haven't done it. I mean, at the end of the day, what do you expect?
Another year. He has another year.
Well, okay, but the thing is, and we'll talk about. Okay, I'll just say this, because after the handshake alley, I looked at the expression on the face of Connor McDavid, the pained expression on the face of Leon Draisaitl, and people may not believe me. I really felt for them, because they are 2 of the best players in this game. And this organization, for the bulk of their career, for 7 seasons, it was 2015 draft for McDavid, 2014 draft for Draisaitl. For the bulk of their career, for the youth of their career, this organization, through a couple general managers, and Peter Chiarelli and now Ken Holland, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, they fail to get at least. I mean, okay, if they have an above average goaltender, they have a better chance. I was exchanging text messages with another reporter last night, and I said, do you think Ken Holland will get a goaltender now? He says, well, maybe after they get a bottom 6 and they get a better blue line, they can get a goaltender. And that's a statement on this organization. It's the fact that they have a phenomenal player, one of the best players in the league in McDavid, one of the best players in the league in Draisaitl. They added an effective winger in Zach Hyman, who had a really good playoff. Evander Kane scored 12 goals. They added him for the cost of nothing. They have a few other decent players, and this team is so badly constructed that they barely beat a wounded LA team in the first round, and Russ has illustrated how they beat Calgary. Colorado is a great team, but Edmonton is such a flawed team. Again, I don't know how McDavid and Draisaitl continue to want to stay there if they don't fix the problems that have been present for so many years.
I don't know. I think that I mean, yes, they're a flawed team, and almost every team is, but at the same time, they have been, and they've had this problem, for the goaltending problem, for a very long time. And obviously, Mike Smith has his moments. He's wildly inconsistent, but but he also is very good at times. So it's hard to really pin this all on him. I honestly feel like this is their flaw, but I feel like they're less flawed. This version of them is way less flawed than any version we've seen in the last several years.
Here's a defense of Mike Smith. Mike Smith should not be put in this position to have to be their savior when he's at 40, a backup goaltender. They were paying Mikko Koskinen, who they couldn't put in the net because he has a 5-hole the size of a Mack truck could go through. That's their problem.
Yeah, no, there's no question about it. But the overall team that they put out there, with Kane, by adding Hyman, with Yamamoto getting better, with Nurse and Bouchard. I mean, they're way better.
But it's still mainly a one-line team when push comes to shove. That's the problem. They have other guys on other lines, and very few of them come through. Nugent Hopkins didn't do anything.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the one line is very good, obviously.
They created a matchup nightmare for Calgary that Calgary had no answer for by putting Kane, Draisaitl, and McDavid together. And Daryl Sutter couldn't do anything. He had nothing to match up against that. Their speed against Calgary was the defining factor in that series. Well, against Colorado has just as much speed or more speed than they do. And in a depth game, and we said this at the beginning of the series, when you're playing a Cogliano and Darren Helm and Alex Newhook, and you add Burakovsky after Kadri goes out, and you look at the Edmonton Oilers, and you're putting out Brad Malone and Ryan McLeod as their depth forwards. There's substance and there's lack of substance. Their defense, okay, Evan Bouchard is a great young player. Darnell Nurse is a very good defenseman. He was playing injured. Duncan Keith is old. Duncan Keith is old. They were playing Chris Russell. He's terrible. They are a very flawed.
You think so? Yeah.
Chris Russell?
I'm kidding.
Oh yeah, he's
losing Clefbaum did hurt them big time.
Yes.
But that's the thing. Edmonton did make a lot of progress because at one stage they were just drafting forward after forward after forward, and then they went, "Oh, hang on a minute, we need some defense as well." So they've acknowledged that and tried to fix it. Yeah. Eventually, they'll get there for the goalie. Just hoping that McDavid isn't using a walker by then.
Yeah, but, that is the baffling part of it all. And obviously, it's hard not to be a one-line team when you've got McDavid and Draisaitl and playing on the same line. I mean, that's going to be a better line than any other line you're going to put out there.
No, but the best way to not be a one-line team is to have guys from the other lines come through.
And
times they did this year.
That's the issue, Ak. You just said it. It's tough to not to be one-line team if you have McDavid and Draisaitl on the same line. Then don't have them on the same line. Draisaitl's a center. McDavid's a center. You're putting all your eggs in one basket, and when there's a matchup issue, you can get away with it. But against a team with depth like Colorado, you need Draisaitl on one line, you need McDavid on the other, and they couldn't do that because otherwise they wouldn't be able to generate enough offense.
Yeah, you need to find complementary piece like Pittsburgh did. They never put Sid and Gino together. Right. They always had them on space.
And that's definitely been the problem the whole time, right? They haven't been able to come up with that, but they are. I think to say they were a Final Four team. You can say who they had to beat to get there. LA's a good team. LA's a good team. They are a good team.
Beat LA without Doughty.
Without Doughty, still a good team. Quick played amazing in that series. I mean, remember that without Quick, Calgary was a very good team this year. These weren't all. I mean, granted, this is the easiest path, and by far the Final Four teams, Edmonton's the worst. I mean, the other three are way better, but there's not not like a zillion teams that are better than Edmonton either.
No, I mean that's fair. I do think this though. Now I do kind of think Colorado is the favorite in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean they've just looked great. I mean they're they're now 12-2.
Yeah,
I mean it's like that is something. I mean that's not just winning.
They're sweeping teams now. Tampa's not sweeping anybody.
With each game. I mean,
and they played good teams too.
They played good teams, and they got injuries. They lost Gerard. They lost Kemper was injured.
They've lost Cogliano. They've lost Kadri. They've lost Gerard. So they've lost Kemper. Although somebody in the chat said Kemper was backing up Francouz yesterday. So if they get Kemper back, who I think is the better of the two goaltenders, then I think they'll be even tougher to beat. I know, Ak, you're get your pom poms out for the Pavel.
I think Francouz will get one game because he's gotten them to this point, so I think they'll give him a game.
Yeah, I mean he's just. It depends who you play. It depends who you're. It will depend a little bit who you're playing in the next round. Who will be the better goalie? Partially, because they're very close. They're very, very close, and it's not. I'm not saying that Francouz at this point in it is so much better than Kemper, but he will.
I mean, I would take Francouz over Lawrence Chabot, but that's only because he's dead.
Anyway, Francouz, I know everybody loves to pick on it. He's going to be. He's
just not a very good goalie.
He's a system goalie. He's okay.
He's actually not a system goalie.
Oh my God, he so is.
Jeez, come on. But anyway,
It's nice to be respected, you know. Anyway, let's move on to the next.
You have your opinion. I respect it. I just don't.
That's not the way you respect someone. The way how you guys respond to when I mentioned.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, I've got an opinion. When you guys have opinions, I don't do that to you. That's just what I'm saying. Anyway, forget about it. Let's get on to since we have Karen here for just a little bit. It is really exciting news about Marie Poulin. Why don't you share what's going on there, Karen?
Well, basically, the Canadiens have hired Marie-Philippe Poulin to be a player development consultant, and that's just a great hire. Obviously, she's not done playing yet, so she'll be working on that job part-time. But still, since Kent Hughes, Jeff Gorton, and Martin Saint-Louis came aboard, there's been a lot of talk about creating a winning culture. And who better to do that than the ultimate winner, Canada's golden girl and captain? She just keeps scoring goals that win gold medals. And I thought it was quite interesting as well that during the combine, apparently the Abs were asking a lot of questions to prospects where they tried to make them bad talk their teammates, just to see the player's character.
Oh, so they were asking the Rucker McGrory question if he was fat. Okay, we never got the name of the team. Okay.
Yeah, they were. And, that's one thing with Poulin. She's so humble and always giving credit to her teammates. Yeah. She's the ultimate team player. I mean, the first time I met her at my cousin's wedding 8 years ago to this day, actually, that was in my Facebook memories today. I asked her, how do you feel after scoring, 2 gold medal clinching games? And all she could say was, well, I feel lucky. Yeah. She never takes the credit. It's not about hard work. It's not because she's got a nose for the net. No, it's luck. And when you talk about her, personal success, she's just going to go on about the team and how good Team Canada is and how everyone's working together and all that. So, yeah, she's the ultimate team player. And I'm just glad that the Canadiens got her before someone else snagged her, because that was always going to happen. She's the best player to ever play the game, if you ask me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think she's the best female player to ever play. And she's definitely the combination of this skill, like you say, as a teammate, and people have, talked. I got to interview her during the Vancouver games, which was like an early thing for her. I think she was pretty.
Yeah, she was barely 18.
But even then, I was told you got to talk to her because she's something special, and it's amazing to watch them like that, and how they and really good on the Montreal Canadiens for doing this, really, breaking more barriers, which is so important right now. It's a huge hire. It's a great hire, and like you say, she's not done playing yet either. So
no, she's not. So she's going to pick up stuff in the organization as well. So that's going to make her an even better player. So yeah, be afraid, America. I'm talking to you, Russ.
Yeah.
Please.
There you go. That's fantastic.
I do want to mention I was on the conference call yesterday for the extension of Chris Weidman, and so these are the things that Gordon's good at, because right now the Habs are a mixture. You've got like the veterans that maybe may get traded at the middle of the season, may get traded at the draft. And you've got the young players you want to develop, and then you've got to have that middle sort of in the sandwich, those middle players. And that's what Weidman is. Like, they signed him for 2 years. He's thrilled. I don't think he thought he was going to get 2 years, but I see that Gordon's probably looking at this and saying, he plays a little power play. He's a good puck mover. He can help the younger guys. For a couple of years, we're still not going to be exactly right, and he could help bridge the gap.
I'm happy with that signing, especially for one thing, because Weidman knows what he is at that price. Yes. His fringe lineup. He'll get in the games he gets, and he won't complain about ice time. He's not going to be a diversion. It's not going to be a distraction to the team. He's just happy to be there, and he actually said himself that this is the place he wants to be. He fits in, so that's just brilliant.
He's a good placeholder. If you need him to be a bottom pairing guy, like Russ said, if you're talking about young players having to be forced to be put in the lineup, it's better to have a veteran who, frankly, everybody recognizes this is a rebuild in Montreal. There's going to be some pain over the next couple of years. There's going to be players traded off the roster. I don't know how extensive it's going to be, Corinne. It could be, Brendan Gallagher. It could be Josh Anderson. It could be Carey Price if he doesn't retire, or if it does, if he wants to play. I
think that ship has sailed with Price. I don't think we'll see him again.
Yeah,
personally, I don't.
Right, but if that's the case, then you could see him, and we talked about Shea Weber's contract being traded. You could see Carey Price's contract being traded, and as something as the Montreal Canadiens may benefit from the fact that the cap is flat by trading long-term injury players to teams that need the cap relief.
There's no question with Shea Weber they will. I mean, there's a lot there. That's already a pretty good sized bidding war from what I've been.
But Price could be the same thing. It's 4 years left at 10.5. So yeah, that's something that it may not be a burden on them financially because other teams may be willing to take that on, not as a player, but as somebody who's who's what I call a coupon against the salary.
Yeah. Well, until we let Karen, but once we gotta let Karen go. But I wanted to talk briefly about the other Jack Hughes, and what's going on there. And the controversy, because I know you these two guys were at the combine, and he was kind of a little bit of a star of the combine, as far as him was really one of the top performers up there. And Russ, you pointed out the ridiculous the whole thing was with his dad being.
Yeah, the Habs made that way tougher than it needed to be.
right.
I think they just wanted to see how he'd react, Russ.
Maybe, they made it awkward. They did make it awkward, so that's what they wanted. They did.
Well, you want to see the character of a guy. You want to put him on the spot and see how he reacts. So I don't think that was a bad idea on them. Say, do you want your dad to be in or out? Just
And they have some late first round picks, right? And and. What's your opinion on Montreal's reaction if they do indeed draft him? Because apparently that's where he will be available.
To be honest, I don't expect Montreal to take him because what I do expect them to do is to package pick 26 and pick 33 to climb up in the draft, like in the mid, maybe 15th rank or something to grab a better player. Mm-hmm. So I really don't see them drafting Jack Hughes, but if they can't make a trade, who knows?
It's a big dilemma, I think about this a lot. I mean, it's like if he is legitimately as good as he is.
Look, if he's on the board, he is a very good player. If he's on the board, you take him.
He is, but you know what the Montreal market is like, though. I mean, as soon as Kent Hughes announced that Vincent Lecavalier was hired as a consultant or whatever, it's like, well, look at the old boys club, always going with the people they know, blah blah blah.
Well, I grant you that, but the thing is, it's usually that way on the French Canadian players. I don't think he would go in that market and necessarily feel any pressure because he's not expected to be a superstar player to begin with.
No, he's not. Very true. But, I think what Montreal needs right now is game breakers more than anything else. I mean, I can't remember who it was who said that Montreal's got a whole team of third liners. That's not true if you think of Suzuki and Caulfield. Yeah, but still, Montreal is predominantly a team of, grinders, not a lot of talent. So you want to move up in that draft and get more high-end talent.
But I think even, and we're at the point now with the talent level that's coming through, that anyone in the first round is a talent. I mean, we're not talking about the third liners in the first round. Like these guys are like, Jack.
You're talking about some. You are talking about some third liners, but not a ton.
I mean, would you say this Jack Hughes is a second liner?
I think there's a chance, but he definitely will slot in third, but there is a chance for him to be a second.
Yeah. So
normally I would say there's no chance that these two teams trade at the draft, or trade at any time. But with Montreal having 14 draft picks, I do think that there will be an opportunity for them to trade up, maybe using one of their couple second-round picks. And Corinne, I know that Toronto is looking to, because they only have 3 draft picks. And they may trade down from 25. And if I could see that, I could see the Canadiens trading like a 2 and a 3 or a 2 and a 3 and a 4 for a 1 and something, and move up. So that would give them an opportunity to draft one of those players. Because we know that Jeff Gordon has heavily invested in the draft, and I think that the recognition is there. It's going to be a few years, but if they hit like he did in New York, you could see 3 or 4 years down the line, the Canadiens bounce back.
Yeah, but what happened in New York was, Panarin came aboard, so that helps a lot.
Yeah,
I don't think you're getting that.
Don't get 3 picks like Boston did and expect to be able to trade up. Like if that's why you're getting them, it's not going to be simple to trade up. And then
right. Yeah. And we'll talk about Boston in a minute.
Yeah, we will take the Boston, but thanks, Ren. I know you had to go. You can hang if you want. If you can.
Yeah, I can stay for a bit.
Okay, cool.
I delayed my lunchtime, so.
I wasn't sure if you have time. Yeah, stay as long as you can. When you got to go, you got to go. All right, so let's let's get into tonight's game before I did 22 players updated on the rumor chart, so we can get to the rumor players.
I was gonna say, why don't we talk about the Boston thing before we talk about the game?
All right, yeah, let's talk about the Boston thing.
Because
go ahead, Mike.
after you had to drop off yesterday, we talked about the fact that Boston's in deep trouble before the news of yesterday because Marchand's out for 6 months conservatively with a hip surgery. McAvoy's out 6 months with a shoulder. The Grizzlick, who's their, at times has been their power play quarterback when McAvoy is not, he's out 5 months.
Right.
Mike Riley, is out for 3 months. So all these things happening, and now the organization decides that they're going to fire Bruce Cassidy. And I don't know where I heard it and when I heard it, but I did hear like about a month ago that the potential of Bergeron returning was more likely if Cassidy was not brought back.
And I also heard that there was potential for Krejci to come back as well if Cassidy left.
I read that yesterday too, and I think honestly, the rumor that had been around and had been circulating forever was that Bergeron basically had said, "I am not coming back if Cassidy is coming back," and that if that's the case, that's it felt too weird to report because of the fact that I just don't see Bergeron being that kind of character guy to say that kind of thing.
I guess it has more to do with the friendship of Krejci. But again, if you're Don Sweeney, you really can't let the players do this because now that you've let the players do this, and if you give Krejci what he wants, we're all going to be bitching in 2 years about Krejci again being overpaid because he was overpaid for a large part of that career. And now that he was gone, everybody's like, "Oh, where's Krejci? Like, we really need him." But if you go look at what his production was, it was never consistent.
Well, you can bring him back, but you can't bring him back at $7 million. You're gonna say,
they're going to, Mike. That's the thing.
Well, then that's insane. I mean,
from what I understood with Bergeron was like he was very upset about that line not being together more often. And he wanted that line with Pasternak and Marchand to be together all the time, basically. And he fought with the coach. And there were there have been rumors forever about other players going into the GM office in Boston and telling him, about their issues they have with Cassidy.
Yeah, I think Sweeney, this is his last year too. If they don't win this year, I think Cam Neely's going to flush him too.
Well, they won't win this year, not with half the team in the ER right now.
Right. And, yeah, exactly. And Cassidy, has done, I think, a really good job in Boston.
He did a better job than I thought he would do there to start.
Yeah. I mean, and that team is still that they have not fallen nearly as far as I thought they would fall.
Claude Julien is free again if they want him back.
Yeah, right. Claude Julien's out there. So is Michel Therrien. Go for it. All right. So, no, I think that this is a. I think Cassie will get a job. I do. I think Cassie will get hired. And he enters this crazy now. Like over the course of somebody said over the course of the last year that 15 NHL coaches have been fired, which is. That's insane. I mean, that's something I don't think we've ever had that.
Well, that is another symptom of the flat salary cap.
It is.
You
can't move players because of that. So let's shake up the coach.
Yeah. No, you're probably right about that. I mean, I think that is a factor there for sure. And so who Boston's going to bring in, will be anyone's guess. And if the players do have any say, it actually could be Claude Julien. It's not out of the question. I mean, the players do like Claude Julien. So
I think it's out of the question. I do. I think he's past it. I do.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have
to had a bad fall and got hurt, and he was out for a while just for that. I think he's aging out of the spot a little bit. I do.
Yeah, I mean, maybe will they be on trots in Boston? Possibly.
I think they'll look at him.
It is a high profile job, it's in the NHL, it's one of the big jobs. And, so there are going to be people who are going to be like Paul Maurice. There's different people who could be interested.
Mike Babcock.
He seems to have like a real like big X across himself right now when I talk to people.
That would be interesting. That's all I'm going to say.
No one really seems to want Babcock. But let's okay. So we'll keep up with that for sure in the offseason. But let's talk about the game tonight because this is the game 4. This is a biggie. I mean, this feels like we're going to see obviously the series changes so much if it's 2-2 or 3-1. So that's needless to say. But I have a good feeling about the Rangers tonight. I really do. I just have I don't know. Maybe I'm going to curse them. I don't mean to curse them if I do.
You're going to curse them.
No, I don't think you're cursing them. I mean, again, I'm getting all kinds of weird texts, and one of them was kind of like, well, the Rangers had a chance in this series. Now that Tampa won that last game, that's it. And it's like, really? I mean, it went down to 41 seconds to go in the game, and Tampa happened to get, a good play out of Hedman and making that pass and then getting the final goal to Palat. It happens.
Yeah. And they fell behind 2-0 too. I mean, like that Tampa got lucky to get out of that game with a win.
Yeah. But the Rangers did cough up a lead, and Tampa did come back from a lead. There is something. But again, Tampa's main objective in that game was to run over Shesterkin. They did it like 3 times. And Gallant says it's not going to happen again. And if he goes heavily physical, I think what could happen in this game is if they keep their speed going, but they go a little more physical, it could open up a little more real estate for some of their guys. Because I do feel like Tampa was still the slower team. And I do feel like even though they were sort of trading blows, I think they're, an injury or two away from being really hampered in this series.
Well, the thing is, if the Rangers go tit for tat and say, if you run Shesterkin, we're going to run Vasilevsky.
They're not going to do that.
No. I'm just saying if that was their means of response, what happened in Game 3 was they got called for the retaliatory penalties, and Tampa Bay didn't. And, if the referees, I'm not saying they're like, it's a fix. I'm just saying it's that, you're the championship team. So you've got to be, if you're playing them, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt if you're Tampa Bay. And I honestly, I think that sucks. I think the game should be called based on how it, what infractions are being, being caused by one player or the other. It's like, if Corey Perry is a swill merchant, which he always is, then he should be called for it. But sometimes he doesn't seem to be called because that's sort of part of his character. And Tampa Bay gets the benefit of the doubt. At least in Game 3, they seem to have done that. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I think that if they get, I do worry, Russell, you said if they can be the way he said it kind of perfectly, if they get physical but can keep their speed up, that's the issue. Like, if you get physical, if they can't drop their speed off and try to get physical on Tampa, because if they put in too many slow guys who are just out there to hit, then Tampa's going to really take advantage of that.
No, but if you let Trouba be a little bit more unhinged, it'll keep the speed up and he'll get that job done too.
What Trouba needs to do is he needs to do what he did in both the Pittsburgh series and in the series against Carolina.
Yep.
Pick your opportunity and lay into somebody. Clean.
And that's what I expect. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, he tried to do that in Game 3 a little bit too. There were a couple of Trouba type hits.
Yeah, he didn't quite get the shot that he did in Pittsburgh.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but and he's definitely a factor. Just I was watching the play go along at one point, and Trouba, I forget who it was on Tampa, but Trouba and this other Tampa player were going up against the boards, and there was no question that this player knew that it was Trouba he was going up against.
Oh yeah,
like you see that where players are peeling off way too soon, he's definitely he's made himself known to get to the point where he doesn't have to hit people necessarily.
True.
He's got like a thing going that's very, very.
And they still have Reeves who can do damage too if they want him to.
Yeah, I mean, I think the guy for Tampa that hasn't done his thing yet in this series is Corey Perry. Like I think that's
right.
And because he's the one who can get under your skin. He's the one
who did run Shesterkin the one time.
Yeah,
he did, but he hasn't quite elevated his. Like how much he's got in Florida and and Toronto before that.
Let's just say he hasn't mistakenly on purpose taken out the equivalent of John Tavares, but he has made himself. I think he has made himself a factor in these playoffs. I think he has 13 points. He's scoring. He's a flying guy, and he's scoring. They're inserting him in the power play. They're inserting him up in the top 6 every once in a while. He can't play the minutes that he normally plays, but he's a dirty SOB act, and
I know
he really is. And now that I don't. Okay, he's got underlying talent. So he's a former MVP, but he makes himself known in terms of being cheap and being dirty. Whereas a guy like Zach Kassian last night, I would never have Zach Kassian on any team that if I was a coach or a general manager. That guy is talentless. He's just a goon and a cheap bastard.
Yeah, but not Perry. Perry can be mean and dirty, but he's got the talent, and he's the kind of player that you want on your team. You hate him like hell when you play against him. On your team, bring it.
I'll tell you also, there was a point in that game where I would say Cooper, for the first time in a long time looked a little perplexed on the bench.
I totally agree with that. It was really weird to see. It was actually kind of shocking to see, like, because you're so used to him being
In control, not worrying about anything.
like he's
I
almost
actually liked seeing that. I was like,
it was good
that's
seeing
the
it.
challenge.
So
Excellent.
I was trying to think of what he is, and he basically is like, you've seen the oh man, he's the perfect like reporter, like your Ted Koppel type character. Like he's a perfect, like, he's so, maybe he's not Dan Rather's maybe a better example. Just like somebody who's just he's looks like that kind of, like, perfectly always put together, always stoic, always
poised.
He reminds me of a chess master, someone who's always in control and always planning ahead and studying his move. That's what he makes me think.
But even with his interview with Emily Kaplan, he was already bitching about the goal, the calls against him. I don't know if that really was goaltending interference. Did you see the play acting?
Yeah.
Like, that's not like him to generally do that on those short interviews.
Yeah, no, not at all. And he definitely is feeling the pressure of,
Yes.
and it's kind of surprising.
He's pushing every button that he can because he knows his team right now is not the team that they were last year. Without Braden Point, they don't have one of their best players. Now, there's, I love the games that are going on before game 4. Well, Braden Point might play sometime in this series. Brian Strome skated, but then he left. We don't know if Sammy Blais is in a white uniform now, so he may be in there by the end.
He did that today. Braden Point was at the optional skate. He was at the optional skate last time, and he didn't play. He's not playing.
Yeah. Really.
I mean, he either has a high ankle sprain or a torn Achilles or something or a knee injury. And right now, I would be shocked if he is in there at all in this series because, I mean, I saw him try to skate in Game 7 against Toronto, and he couldn't even put any weight on his leg, and he could barely get onto the bench.
Well, at least Cooper was honest. He said if it were a 7-game series, maybe he's a little more optimistic. And look, it still could be. Here's the funny thing about Gallant. He has been coaching these series like they're 7-game series.
Yeah.
Even when he was up in the last series was saying, this is going to 7. I know it's going to 7. So in a way, Gallant's done a good job by managing expectations by doing that. And Kreider's done a really good job of leading. He took full responsibility for a goal the other day. He wouldn't even let Zibanejad talk. He put his arm over. He's like, I got this. He wanted to, basically say it himself. Those kinds of things are good signs considering that they're the younger team, even though Kreider's not playing the grizzled veterans.
Yeah, I feel like Gallant has gotten inside Cooper's head, if that's possible.
I think he has a little.
I feel like Gallant like things, because Gallant will play the media, he'll play the whole system, he'll play the whole thing. He's an old school Lindy Ruff. Remember, I'm famous Lindy Ruff, Ken Hitchcock theories. Like, I always think of that when I think of.
But it's different. There was animosity there. Ruff and Hitchcock hated each other.
They did hate each other.
Gallant and Cooper are friendly. They coach together in the World Championships for Canada, so they know each other well and they're very friendly. It's just I think there's a mutual respect there. But they're tacticians. They're gonna play that game. Now, Russ, I did hear that if Strome can't play, it's likely it's going to be Rooney instead of McKegg in the lineup.
Okay, I mean, Rooney gives him a little better penalty killing. I'm okay with either one. I actually like McKegg a little better offensively than Rooney, but that's okay. Rooney is a good penalty killer, and that will probably be a big deal based on the power play goals. I actually think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, I could see that. Definitely. All right, let's go to some rumor chart things before we get
out.
Right. So here we go. Remember, the rumor chart is just opinions, and it's not anything beyond that. It's
no wagering.
All different sorts of things. No wagering, exactly. Please, no wagering. All right, here we go. So we're going to give you guys some things today that you don't necessarily get otherwise. So thanks for watching the podcast. We really appreciate it. All right, so we're going to start with I guess we can start at the top with Johnny Gaudreau. It's constantly changing. This is and the rumor chart with Gaudreau is very, very much shifting all over the place. I finally have put the Devils on there a little bit, just because I've heard some things in the last couple of days. I was trying to put Devils on there before.
Well, okay, I would like to know how the Florida Panthers could do that.
Yeah, me too. I would like to know the same thing.
Philly. I mean, it's the same thing for.
Yeah, they're both, and Ottawa's has their own issues too, but not not the same, of course, as the other two. Philly and the Florida are definitely up against it. This obviously would require the Flyers moving Van Riemsdyk, maybe somebody else, too, to make this happen. So
right, but this way though, almost assures that they have to move Van Riemsdyk's full salary, which again then means they're going to be giving up some sort of draft pick or asset to do it, which again just digs them a bigger ditch, a deeper ditch.
Yeah, I think you're right. This is what I think about that. I think Comcast is about this thing turning around quicker than
I know they're going to try it, and
so that draft pick
they're going to fail.
That draft pick could be moved. It could be moved for sure. Whether or not that's right or wrong, time will tell. But I think that I think that pressure is going to be there for now, and I don't know. Now with William Nylander second up on the list here. This a lot of different opinions on this flying around. I had a really good source of mine who I've been friends with since he was with the NHL and now he's with the Leafs and has been with the Leafs for several years. And he was in town for a wedding. I got to talk to him about some really interesting things, which I wanted to talk about you guys about yesterday, but we can kind of get into a little bit of it here. This is that he believes Nylander is gone. He really does. He thinks, I'm still putting it at 40% he stays in Toronto, but he thinks Nylander, this is the year Nylander goes. And that the Leafs want to do something. They want to change things up. They want to move somebody else in as their other big forward. So, it's not just about getting rid of Nylander's salary to get a defenseman like we've in the past. It's been about moving Nylander for another forward is what I was told.
Yeah, but I don't get why it's Nylander that they would want to move. I'm sorry, but Nylander in the playoff actually steps up.
Well, not this year. He was inconsistent. Last year against Montreal, he was their best forward. This year, one game he was really good. The next game he's dogging it in the corner, and it doesn't go after the puck. It was clear that there was an inconsistent effort there. And the reason that Nylander would be the one is no move clause for Tavares. You're not moving Marner or Matthews. So by process of elimination, if you're taking up that core, you're trading Nylander. Where I quibble here is same question with Florida. How can they? I mean, Nylander makes less than Gaudreau would in free agency, but he's only under contract for 2 more years. Yeah. If you're talking about trading a Sam Bennett or Sam Reinhart, I don't know how if that works. Seattle really doesn't have the assets. If the Leafs were trading a young, right now Seattle has 4 second-round picks. You're not trading them for a draft pick. You're trading them for a player, probably a young player, and they're not trading Matty Beniers. So.
All right, so hold on. So here's where I differ on, and Seattle may not be right, but this is where I differ on the Nylander thing. Even though he has 2 years left, the Leafs, if they get a young player, I don't think it's going to be a young player that they can insert right in the lineup. So I don't think they're getting that young of a player. And I think the more likelihood is that they're going to end up getting a player with less term than Nylander, and that's how they make the deal, and they just make it up on this player making less money than Nylander. And I think that's how it's more likely to shake out, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, Russ. I think that you got to look at the Nylander trade in terms of almost a 3-team deal. Like it's almost, even though it's not a 3-way deal.
Yeah,
I said the concept of them making a trade for Mangiapane, for example. And getting rid of his salary.
And that was the other thing. It's like Mangiapane is going to make more than Nylander.
No, he won't.
I don't think so.
He scored 35 goals.
And he has no assists. Like he's not.
But I don't think he's going to make more than Nylander. I think the Nylander and
if he doesn't make more, it's going to be
close. He also is from Toronto, and there's another guy who might take a little bit less to play in Toronto. I was told that he does.
Okay, but the issue here is what's going to make Calgary trade Mangiapane. It's only if they sign Gaudreau, and if Gaudreau does go someplace, which by this chart says a 70% likelihood he's going someplace other than Calgary, then they're not trading Mangiapane.
It's not just about Gaudreau; it's also about Tkachuk in Calgary. There's other issues going on there too. So they have more than just. I mean, Gaudreau for sure is a tough one to sign, and they are going to try. I was told, but it's not just about. It's not like they can keep Gaudreau, Mangiapane, and Tkachuk apparently, or they can't keep Mangiapane and at the end of the day, if the Leafs have something that they are willing to give up, I get the impression that Sutter doesn't love Mangiapane and that they feel like he is at his all-time high right now. Like, this is the best he's ever going to be. This is the most trade value we're going to get from him, which is very possible.
I believe that, I don't know about the inner workings of the Columbus Blue Jackets. We know that they need scoring. Again, it's tough for me to imagine, what the return would be in that deal. I think that the team that makes the most sense for Nylander in terms of a team that needs scoring and a team that has young assets is the Los Angeles Kings, because they're a team that, if you're talking Turcotte or, unlikely they trade Byfield, or you talk Turcotte or Kupari or Kaliev, and they have young defensemen too.
You actually think they're going to do that 1-for-1? There's no way. Not with only 2 years left on Nylander. They're not going to do that.
Well, I think they would have to trade one of them, Russ.
Not 1-for-1. I don't think they would.
Yeah.
Well, who are you talking about? I mean, I'm talking
about Turcotte or Kaliev. I'm not doing it unless
you're not doing it, but they might, because they're.
No, I don't think they will.
They actually like the path they're on. I mean, and they have other guys. They have other guys they could bring there too. They
need scoring. Yeah, they could go out and spend $9 million on Philip Forsberg, but Nylander is almost as good, not as good, almost as good, and he's making $2 million.
He's only got 2 years, and then he's going to test free agency. Right. Why would the Kings trade someone they could have for the next years and not have to pay him?
Because they want to win now, Russ.
I don't think they want to win now. I disagree with that.
I think Blake is building slowly there, and I think Robitaille, who also has a big hand in what's going on there. I mean, the problem with Nylander's value and talking to my friend, he totally agreed with this, is that he is like famously inconsistent to the point where everybody knows. I mean, to the point where the general manager, Maple Leafs general manager, came out during the playoffs and talked about how inconsistent he was. It's like and that inconsistency, that talk didn't help either.
No, but that inconsistency in Toronto is amplified. But everybody knows, he's inconsistent, and he scored 34 goals. So for teams that are desperate for offense, you're going to get offense from Nylander.
You're going to get offense, but it's also when he scored those 34 goals. It's like
it wasn't like A-Rod where he hits a home run every time they're up 7-1. I mean, he did.
He did, but you have to look at the games that like Nylander won it for the Leafs, and there were some of them for sure. Yeah. But for what he is, that should be a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm looking at this like the Kings don't need Nylander as much as the Leafs need to get rid of Nylander.
Yes, and everybody knows they need to get rid of Nylander, and that feeling is. Because the feeling is that it's just that they are going to make some kind, and I'm not saying they should do this. I'm not saying that, and I argue
they should do it. And
I argued with my friend about a lot of this stuff because I said, I think they're in better place than he does, but
no, they're not.
I mean, obviously there's a Toronto thing, and you guys are all on the same page. He agrees with you on a lot of where the stuff they have to do.
And I do think it's coincidentally, I do think if they do trade, say the trade is with Seattle, and Seattle's got 4 second-round picks, and they're trading him strictly for prospects and draft picks to clear the cap space. The guy next on your list, Eck, is a guy that they might target because they were rumored to be interested in Klingberg.
Yeah.
Last year and this year, before Dallas decided to keep him because he's a right shot defenseman who could play power play quarterback and in their top 4. And if they could spend the money that they're spending on Nylander on Klingberg, I think that's sort of a trade. They get the draft picks, they sign Klingberg as a free agent, they spend the money that they spend on Nylander on Klingberg. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard them tied with Klingberg. I do think it makes sense to agree. I do think that the signing of Giordano makes that a little bit less sense.
Yeah, but Klingberg's a righty, and that's a big thing.
Yeah, I know that obsession. Yeah, I totally get that they want to have a better right-handed defenseman back there, and that makes total sense. But I think Klingberg, it could be. Personally, I feel like Klingberg could be a huge mistake for somebody for the amount of money that's going to be spent on him.
He's not a defensive defenseman. We know that. He was minus
right. And he's the kind of guy that I could see going to Toronto and being a huge mistake. It just feels like that. It doesn't feel like, I don't know. We've seen this game. It feels like we've seen this game before. This kind of player.
He's a Swedish Jake Gardner.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, who's coming back? You hear that too? He's coming back. He's coming back to the NHL.
They cleared him so he could be bought out.
Okay. He's working.
I look at this and I say, I don't know if Klingberg's really going to be going to New Jersey. they have Hamilton. I don't think that's really what they need.
Yeah.
I think I could see the Senators possibly doing it because Shabbat got hurt last year. You don't know what he's looking like. They have Sanderson.
Yeah, if he's strictly going someplace for the money, then Ottawa.
Then he won't do it. But if he wants to be part of a mix, that'd be really good. Ottawa would make sense.
Apparently, Vancouver likes him a lot. Vancouver is absolutely going to be aggressive on the defensive mid market. Apparently, they're going to be the most aggressive.
I believe that, but boy, I would never do it if I were them.
I'm with you. I think Klingberg is a real big like Trojan horse type signing.
Yeah.
I mean, he's worth a lot, but he's not going to be worth what he's going to get.
Because a lot of times Quinn Hughes will play like a minute 45 on a power play.
Right.
What time is left going to be for Klingberg?
It's a good point. Bergeron has shifted from, I had him at 80% to playing with Bruins to 20% retiring to 95.5 now. I think that the only reason I think Bergeron wouldn't retire is for some reason there was an issue with this surgery or how like that, if it is recovery. But, I think he's going to be back now, especially since they made this move with the coach. And which brings us to the last guy we'll talk about today is Vitaly Kravtsov, who's back in the news. Everyone's favorite here. The Rangers have this guy. He's got all kinds of talent. Man, if the Rangers win the Stanley Cup, does Kravtsov want to come here? I mean, could that suddenly change things? Could he suddenly be like, okay? And could the Rangers be open to it? Is there? I heard somebody suggested that to me yesterday that the Kravtsov thing could change a lot, given all the stuff that's happening in the world and different situations, and the Rangers liking him so much that they're not getting the kind of offer they want. He could end up playing for them.
I mean, it's being reported that Kravtsov turned down an offer from Tractor, but I didn't expect him to go back to the KHL because a lot of guys are not going to go back to the KHL.
Yeah,
but even if Kravtsov says he wants to play for the Rangers, who's to say Chris Drury wants him?
Right,
he's the problem all along.
Yeah, but things can players can talk to general managers and have like heart to hearts with them. And
they could.
And when you've got that much talent, sometimes it's worth a heart to heart. It's worth like, okay, he's obviously a crazy talented kid, right? And it's hard to sit there and say that we're just not going to give him at least maybe one more chance and like a new life.
But you got to remember that the acrimony between Kravtsov and the Rangers occurred when Kravtsov was playing in Hartford,
right.
And the GM in Hartford was Chris Drury.
Sure. So, no, but I agree. But I think that I do think the sign of a mature general manager. I mean, Chris Drury might not be that yet, but I think, and hopefully Russ is just listening to this. But I think the sign of
with your job search.
Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. I think the sign of a mature general manager is, someone who can sit back and say, okay, well, let's try this again. Let's, this is something that we've seen other guys do in the past, Brian Burke's famous for this. Like Burke would give Kravtsov another chance.
Yeah. At this point, I think that the only thing that Drury is interested in here, Russ, is to get top value for a former first round.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
why do we think that this is impossible? They could have like any kind of reconciliation.
I mean, nothing's impossible. But again,
what was so bad? What was so terrible?
Apparently what he said was terrible to Drury.
Yeah.
There were things blocking the way, and like re-signing Andrew Kopp, and now Hedo's turned into a center. So now, where's the exact spot for Kravtsov? And he hasn't played an NHL minute. Are the Rangers really going to say? You don't have to play in Hartford because, there was an issue there. No, they're going to say you're going to play in Hartford and work your way up, right? And Kravtsov's probably going to say, yeah, but they know he's not going to love it.
Right. But not, but,
And I'll tell you why he's not going to love it. It has nothing to do with playing in the AHL. Hartford's a lousy place to play. And for a young Russian kid, it's like, you might as well be on an island somewhere out in the Pacific instead of being like in a better environment, better AHL city in the U.S.
Yeah, but if your option is the KHL, I mean next year, and no one knows what the KHL is going to be like next year, so a lot of money is going from the KHL right now, apparently. So
your option is to hope that you can force the Rangers to trade you, and you play at KHL.
I do think that's the game plan here.
I think that's the game plan too. But I don't have the Rangers on this list, so as I make this argument.
Yeah.
But and I do think that's what's going to happen. But I was also told just this morning that there could be a reconciliation there, an attempt. We'll see what happens. I mean, who knows? It depends how.
Here's the other thing. This is the other problem, Mac. So the longer Rangers go on a cup run, the less attention Drury pays to this situation anyhow.
Yeah. I think this is less likely to come together in a sort of kumbaya moment than Puljujärvi and the Oilers, because in the end, Puljujärvi was wooed back because he could play with McDavid and Draisaitl. Right. And in this instance, I think all the Rangers are offering him is an opportunity to play in the American Hockey League, and he believes he's an NHL player. So that's why, if he does go to Montreal would be perfect. The guy who drafted him, they have a boatload, 14 draft picks.
Yep.
It makes a ton of sense that they would be able to get maybe a second and a third for him.
Yeah.
That probably is where he ends up going.
I mean, I think that makes sense too. Is he an NHL player, Russ?
Kravtsov, yeah.
You think he is, right? Is he a second liner, first liner?
Second liner.
Second liner, okay. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to get something. Then you got to make sure you get something. And if you can't get something, then you got to just go to him and say,
I got to get at least like a second and a third.
Right. Like if you can't get that, which I think you probably can, but if you can't get that, then I think Montreal's a really good bet. The Islanders are a fascinating one because
Montreal's got 14 picks. Give me a few of them.
Yeah, right. And that could happen. But also, like we talk about, the Rangers do become more attractive to Kravtsov if they're right now, because if they're in the Stanley Cup Finals, that changes that. But
it will be harder for him to crack the lineup.
Harder for him to crack the lineup for sure. But he also does play into what they're doing. Like if he was not
I don't know that about Gallant. That's the other thing. I don't know that. As far as the way the team is, yes. Yeah. As far as Gallant, I don't know that.
Remember, it took almost an entire season for Gallant to start to trust Kakko and Hedl and Lafreniere. Yeah. And now, though, that kid line is one of the big reasons why they're within 2 games of the Stanley Cup final, because he finally started to trust them.
Yeah, right. And in a way, that's either it took that long for him to trust them or he wanted to develop them. It's a hard way to like.
It's both.
It's both, right? But I think that he has done it really well. No matter how you slice it, Gallant has developed them nicely, and they become a real force. Mm-hmm. Some of the older players on the Rangers, aren't that. I mean, they will age out eventually. Kravtsov is in the younger age group, so he could be a good second line player if that's your.
That's a good argument. I can't say it's impossible, but I just don't foresee it.
Yeah. And the Senators are involved in a lot of things, as you've seen on here. The Senators are going to be a force, I was told. And yes, we don't know exactly who's really.
Yeah, I honestly, I find that really hard to believe. Because, because right now their ownership is in flux. We don't, unless it's not going to be taken over by the league, but Eugene Melnick's 2 daughters are really, they're in their 20s. They're not going to be really involved in the ownership. It's going to basically probably be all on Pierre Dorian. And you would think that, he's got to get Josh Norris signed. There's a lot of question marks. Yes, it's
you do have to ask yourself this though, that with when owners are in flux in the NHL, like when an owner dies, like happens here, and the families now of people who aren't necessarily hockey people have control of this, right? When something like this happens, the NHL jumps in and does a lot. They want to make sure this team stays in good standing. So the NHL is going to make sure that Ottawa is still doing business, that they're not just sitting there doing nothing. More so probably than even if Melnick was still there. They're going to make sure that Ottawa is still viable. Even if they want to move Ottawa, if they want to sell Ottawa, they've got to, to another owner in Ottawa, they've got to bring in players. They've got to make Ottawa a good team. The idea here, there's going to be something like, you're going to see this happen. And you saw this happen before with Arizona quite a while ago. And it's happened in others where, they bring in some free agents that you don't expect, and that it has to do with the fact that they're trying to keep the value of the team up, and they don't want the team to just fall apart. They don't want the team just to end, and they don't want to just move the team. So they're going to sit there. The other option is to move them to Quebec, which I've heard is a big, that's a big thing that keeps continuing to go on. But but they like having wait till they can build another. They would probably move the team back in Ottawa if they could get a stadium back in there. I've heard that scenario where the Senators move to Quebec and then they move another team back into Ottawa down the line with another ownership in it.
Yeah, I mean, once it's gone, I mean, I know it's the head of the federal government. I know that there's a fan base there, but I find it hard to believe that Quebec and their owners, or whoever buys that team, would not lock that team to stay in there for 30 years or something like that. So,
I mean, the problem is before that, right? Ottawa Senators fans were kind of split between Maple Leafs fans and Canadiens fans, right? Before they existed. So you had some Canadiens fans and some Maple Leaf fans there. You've had a whole generation now. Ottawa's been there a while. So there's a whole generation of kids that aren't going to easily shift over to being Montreal Canadiens fans or Maple Leaf fans, So that's the thing. That's a big thing to keep them there. That's important for them, for sure. But we'll see how that plays out. See how that plays out, definitely. But I guess that's all the time we have for today, folks. We'll be back again tomorrow. Kevin will be back with us. We will talk more. We got lots more players I've updated here on the Rumored Chart and chart, I should say. And remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you all on